I tell people all the time, poverty was the best gift I could have received.
Amber Martin is the corporate consultant turned med spa founder who is pioneering a new, deeply human approach to health and longevity.
Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast, the #1 podcast in Colorado Springs.
Today, our highlighted sponsor is Planet Duct. You can find them at planetduct.com.
All right. Well, today's a very special episode. We have Amber with Reveal Med Spas. Thank you so much for, first and foremost, for sponsoring our show, supporting our show, but also coming on and finally getting an episode with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I'm all about supporting local business, but I'm really excited to have the conversation today. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. But we're really excited to dive into about Reveal and everything, but we want to kind of start from the beginning because you have quite a background. We did some research on you, and before this whole med spa thing that you are doing now, you have quite an elaborate background and education and things that you've done. Yeah. So let's just start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your upbringing, and kind of what got you into where you're at today. Yeah.
It is completely opposite of what I'm doing now, but I was raised in the Midwest originally, raised by contractors and entrepreneurs. I spent almost the entirety of my career in media. So I worked in screen-based media, in marketing, worked in television from about age 19 and got into advertising then and I worked at a couple different stations in Missouri, which is where I'm from, Springfield, nice. To be exact. So home of Bass Pro and Brad Pitt. Those are our claims to fame. And then I was recruited to Colorado Springs, where I went to work for KOAA, which is the NBC affiliate here, and worked at that station for several years with local small businesses, helping them to market themselves, right? So kind of teaching them, how do you market your business effectively when you're a busy business owner? And there's so many things pulling you in different directions. Ultimately, I moved up to corporate and became a national consultant. So I had worked with Sonic and Subway and McDonald's and all of those, Ford, things like that. But I really got to take it to the next level when I got to work with businesses that were small and medium-sized all across the United States. And so ultimately, that developed into a position where I was consulting with 300 different marketing consultants across the country. And then I would go out and build and deliver seminars to small businesses on how to kind of navigate the murky waters of marketing. So very different than what I'm doing now. But ultimately, my husband and we were looking for an opportunity to grow in a space about which we're really passionate. And marketing is certainly one of those areas for us. But wellness, health, and really just lifting people up in an area that's pretty vulnerable, which is in a med spa, was something that was very enticing to us. And so we were pulled to do that and decided, hey, you know what? We've got an opportunity. My husband worked in television as well. We were in 2 different states at the time, living married in Montana and Colorado, and we found an opportunity to be together and start this business. And so that's what we did.
We'd like to take a quick break and thank our sponsors.
Pioneer Rodeo.
The Pioneer Rodeo is back August 15th through the 17th at Norris Penrose Event Center with 2 nights of rodeo and wild demolition derby finales.
Tickets go on sale June 1st. Details at pioneerrodeo.com. Bolton Co. Executive Coaching. Up feels better than stuck. You know that. But in this market, how do you get unstuck and get ahead as an executive?
Our guy, JB, is an executive coach at Bolton Co. Coaching, where he believes you don't have to change who you are. You just need an injection of effectiveness and a proven competitive edge roadmap for your way up. Head to boltonco.net. That's boltonco.net. ProLift Garage Doors. ProLift Garage Doors are your locally owned and operated residential and commercial garage door experts. From fast repairs and smooth replacements to routine tune-ups, they keep your doors running like new.
Go with the pros at ProLift Garage Doors.
Visit proliftdoors.com to learn more. Be Our Guest Getaways. Be Our Guest Getaways specializes in Disney cruise resort and theme park vacations.
Planning a Disney vacation can be stressful. Let Be Our Guest Getaways provide you with concierge-level service for free.
Learn more at beourguestgetaways.com. That's beourguestgetaways.com.
Planet Duct. Planet Duct is the #1 choice for professional air duct cleaning in Colorado Springs and Southern Colorado. With state-of-the-art equipment and top-tier service, they make sure the air in your home or business is clean and allergen-free. Breathe easier with Planet Duct. Learn more at planetduct.com. Awesome Home Services.
Awesome Home Services delivers top-notch HVAC solutions for your home. Whether you need heating, cooling, or system maintenance, they ensure your comfort year-round. Visit awesomeservice.com for your HVAC needs. That's awesomeservice.com.
Proud American Electrical and Solar.
Give Proud American Electrical and Solar a call today for all your electrical and solar needs. They are locally owned and operated business right here in Colorado Springs. If you're looking for information on solar, this is the company you will want to call. Check out their website at proudamericansolar.com. Use promo code COSBusiness for a 5% discount today.
Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care.
Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care offers affordable, accessible healthcare with a focus on you. They provide exceptional primary care without the hassle of insurance barriers. Experience a patient-centered approach. Learn more at pinnacleapc.com.
And now let's get back to the show. By the way, thank you for sharing all that stuff too, because there's a whole lot of questions from that. Like for one, like we're in Montana where you guys kind of split up.
Yeah.
if you will.
So my husband was in Billings. He ran the CBS affiliate there, KTVQ.
Oh, wow.
And he and I had met through the company. So he was in Billings. I was in Monument. And, you know, we had about a 9-hour drive between the two of us, or 5 hours with flights and time at the Denver airport.
Gosh,
Yeah.
I got up to Whitefish last year. It was super beautiful glacier, actually with Edgar.
Oh,
We didn't get to
Yeah.
go all the way in a glacier because it was actually, we're like a week out from it being open for the season. So we got to
yes.
kind of go into a little bit of it, but not the whole thing. But my
The auroras
gosh.
were actually when and Edgar didn't wake you up when
Oh,
There's
you're
northern lights going on,
kidding.
and this
and
guy-
you were asleep.
Yeah, finally get to say this
Well.
on the show, by the way.
Come on, Edgar. Well, I mean, it's okay. He wanted to let you sleep, which I
Yeah.
appreciate.
It's like 9 o'clock. I should have just been up anyways,
That's
but
fair.
it is what it is.
That's fair. Whitefish is amazing.
Oh
I
my
mean, we
gosh.
love to vacation there, and it's just spectacular. There's no place like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
so
like
good.
the old frontier, what Colorado probably used to be, right?
Right?
It's
Gosh, if it was, we missed out, didn't we?
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
But
that's beautiful.
I have a lot of questions because obviously I have a marketing background just
Right.
like yourself as
Yeah.
well. What can you pull out of like working with these big corporations and working with these marketing consultants and like training them?
Yeah.
There's so much to pull out of like that for one. So that's the first question. It's like, what did you pull out of that experience at such a high level training other professionals in that space? Let's start with that question because I have a
Yeah.
follow-up question to that as well, but let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean, I pulled a lot from it, right? You know, you learn a lot about buyer behavior and consumer psychology and what gets people to make a purchase as a result of advertising. So there's a lot of that happens that I kind of studied and geeked out on a little bit. But in terms of working with big corporations and huge ad agencies and then marketing consultants who are just starting their careers, I think the biggest thing was that, you know, everybody is looking for a way to put their kids through college, right? Everybody's looking for a way to expedite their path to success. And for these brands, it's certainly having an effective marketing campaign and strategy. With ad agencies, you work with buyers and you have to negotiate. The real magic is working with these consultants and small businesses. And I think for me, the biggest reward in that piece of my career was helping people to see the strength that was within them. Because I had small business owners who are terrified, right? And I get it now. I do. It's heavy and it's big. And then I had new marketing consultants who are trying to start their careers and are equally terrified to have those conversations with business owners. And are they going to be able to make it? And so helping to coach people through that and helping them to find their inner strength, I think is probably the biggest thing that I've taken away. That and just having a high level of empathy. You know, people, the greatest human need is to feel seen. And regardless of what industry you're in, I think that always seems to be true. So that really showed up throughout my career.
One thing I've noticed about you, like you present yourself very well. You look in our eyes, you talk to us. Public speaking is obviously, I'm just picking up, we've only known each other for like 5-10 minutes,
Right.
but it sounds like you have a pretty good strength with public speaking. Where does that come from?
I don't know. You know, it's hard to say. It's something I love. It's probably one of my favorite things. And so as I developed my career, I found that was a place where I was really comfortable. You know, I could get on stage and talk to a few hundred people and deliver messages and you know, PowerPoint presentations that I had built for them with a certain level of passion. So it's just always been there. I've just always been, you know, I danced in high school. I was in theater and I've just always enjoyed presenting to people. But I think the reason it's worked well for me is because I see people start to nod and it starts to click. And it's so validating that I just keep going because I just want to continue to support them. So yeah, it's pretty fun. I like it.
Now, when you're helping these consultants, obviously, like someone who's worked with them doing my events, it's more than just TV that you're like doing marketing for, right? Like now a lot, like you said, NBC, right? Is KOA, is NBC?
Yeah, that's right.
Like the offerings is so much more because they got into digital. Like explain more of that offering, just because I think folks are just thinking, okay, NBC, you're throwing 30 spots on TV. Like, what are you doing on TV? But talk a little bit more about that too.
Well, it's diversified, right? So it's multi-platform and it's all screen-based. So what we know is that back in the day when I got into this 22 years ago, it was like I could put your ad on TV and people would show up and that was it. Now there are so many steps that we have to go through to follow that customer along their path to purchase. And so we really have to meet them all along the way. Right. And so when we think about those offerings, that's not just broadcast TV. It's streaming TV, right? Which is what OTT and CTV, that's what we call it. But it's really, are you streaming at home?
Like Hulu ads?
Say again?
Like Hulu ads and stuff?
Exactly. Right. So the TV on the wall, we know, is the most effective way to reach people because the bigger the screen, the higher the level of engagement and recall. And so you want to reach them, whether it's on broadcast or on, say, Hulu or something like that, Sling or Fubo. And then you want to continue that conversation, right? Because what's going to happen, they're sitting on the couch and they're watching TV, and what's in their hand? Their phone. Right. So then I want to have a conversation with them on that phone, and I want to follow them along that journey so that they go, okay, well, now I'm going to do some research. Well, how do I show up when they're researching? And so then we do things like, of course we can do SEO, but it's also keyword and contextual retargeting. If they're searching for information relative to what it is this advertiser's doing, I want to make sure I show up in that conversation. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's a sign from God. Well, it's us, right? And then we follow them along, and then we can continue that through whether it's social or in-banner video, YouTube pre-roll, things like that.
Wow. I love it. That's awesome. Have you ever heard, and I brought this up a couple times on the show, but the Google 7-11-4 rule, have you ever heard of that? It's kind of newer.
Tell me more.
I've talked about it a couple times, but it's a really good one because it's just so important even today. So what they have found, Google has found, is that we're kind of in a trust recession through ads, and it's because of the fatigue. There's so many ads that come out all the time that our brain is actually already trained to just like bypass them. Phone calls come in, probably telemarketer, ads on Facebook, you kind of swipe. So what they found is these three numbers. So 7-11-4, 7 hours right now is on average what it takes for a stranger to become a customer and digesting your content. So 7 hours is a long time.
That's a lot of social media videos, guys.
Again, now across 11 different touch points. So you were mentioning following them around. So that's like the retargeting and all those different things you're probably talking about there. 11 touch points. That's a lot of touch points across 4 different channels.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about, like you were talking about before, Hulu, you got your Facebook, you got your TikTok, you got Google retargeting, whatever it is.
Right.
That's the average number now. And so digital market, I'm sure like when you were starting in TV, it was a little bit different. Like my mom was executive newspaper, like completely different strategy than what it is now.
Totally. Yeah.
And so it's just so interesting to see the world it is today. And for you to be like your whole career in marketing and now becoming a business owner and kind of seeing the other side of that.
Totally.
Talk about that transition. I'm sure that's been very interesting for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny, right? You say, okay, well, I've marketed so many businesses across the country, my entire career, right? I can do that. Right. And I can do that, but I also do so many other things. And so the balance and the juggle with the fractionalization of the audience, right? Like you just said, Marcus, where it's like, how do I catch them? How do I get in front of them? You compound that with the fact that I'm running a business, I'm managing expenses with my husband. We're, making sure we're getting patient count where it needs to be. And I am in every single consultation for every patient that walks through that door, right? And we're making sure inventories and we have all the things that we need. And I'm a mom, I have kids. And so the transition was dramatic. And I've met so many small business owners and I was raised by them. And I can very safely say that no one can prepare you for just the amount of commitment that it requires and the heart that it takes. So that was really something for me. Your passion is what pulls you through the exhaustion, right?
Yeah, that's so well put. It's, I couldn't put it any other way. It's especially like you said, there's nothing that can prepare you for that next step. It's like that's why they call it your baby, right? It's like almost like taking care of its own life form is starting your own business, and it's always on your mind, and it's you never clock out anymore, right?
Nope.
It's just midnight,
Every
something
day.
happens, you have to be the person that fixes this thing. So and you were talking about passion too, and you kind of already briefly brushed on it, but you're talking about wellness and health.
Mhm.
Talk about that, like through childhood to career to
Yeah.
now having your own space for this. But talk about where that passion came from.
It's interesting. I mean, being raised in the Midwest, I was raised just like many kids in the 80s on very highly processed foods. And I drank 7-Up like it was going out of style,
Mhm.
right? I had a lot of Spam growing up, powdered sugar donuts. So I am not the picture. I'm not what you would think, right? I was not born of that. That's before nutrition facts were put on food. I'm dating myself. And then, I got into television and I made a friend with another marketing consultant back home. And I was drinking Dr. Peppers and having donuts in the morning, right? And I'm fortunate that I, had a pretty good metabolism, so it wasn't killing me yet. But this friend of mine who came to work with me in television actually was on a reality TV show with the WWE. So she was trying out on MTV to be a WWE wrestler. And she just happened to land at this TV station with me in Springfield, Missouri. And so I started to learn from her and I said, I want to get fit. Teach me about this. What should I do? And so she kind of got me started and it began there. And then I'll say, so I have 3 kids and 2 of them I birthed myself. One is my stepdaughter. And when I was pregnant with my son, I really got into nutrition. And I started CrossFit. I don't CrossFit anymore, but I did do CrossFit and just got very focused on human performance. And it became like a fascination for me. And so it's become really prevalent in every area of my life. So at that point, I was working at a TV station as well. And I became the wellness coordinator there. And so I would bring in healthy food for people. And I just started to see, we had people in news who are working all hours. And there's not a lot of great, healthy, nutrient-dense food available to them. And you start to see the toll that it takes on people. And so they would have me do healthy cooking segments on our news just because it was fun and I was the wellness geek. And then from there, it's just evolved into a greater passion. So my husband and I kind of joke, he's this incredible fisherman and that's his thing and that's his hobby. And my hobby is, geeking out on, fitness and nutrition and neuroscience. So it's just something I love.
That's awesome. How cool. And like, I know for me, like fitness is a big part of my life and definitely eating well. My mom was definitely a big proponent of me eating well early.
Yeah.
We didn't have soda growing up or anything like that in the house,
amazing.
which was good for us, right? From the get, right?
Yeah.
But there's a level of like self-confidence, especially as you're getting a little bit older and like
Right.
you see friends who maybe are on a different trajectory and always
Yes.
eating bad and they just don't know better or they just choose not to,
Yeah.
indulge in, their health and fitness and eating well. And you see it and there's like a level of confidence you get for yourself, not only because that's happening, but because you feel good, and you look good.
Totally.
And like mental health wise, confidence wise, there's something to be said about that. So like, I'm assuming a lot of the folks who come into Reveal, like, I mean, I'm sure that's part of the conversations that you have is they want to look
Yes.
better. They want to have the confidence and like, there's something to be said about that. Like being able to like walk around, and just feel good for
Totally.
yourself. Right.
Oh yeah. And I think, that my primary demographic is females. We have, many male patients, but it's primarily women. And, like it or hate it, a part of how we identify ourselves comes around how we present ourselves. How do we look? How confident do we feel? It's just kind of the world we live in. And so we really place our focus less on, when they come in and they say to me, these are the things that I don't like. I ask them, well, what do you like? Tell me about that. And then I let them know my job is to not point out the things that you don't like. My job is to help you really expand on what you do like and help you feel more confident. And so wellness is a big part of what we do. We do medical weight loss, but we do it differently. So, because I'm such a self-proclaimed nerd for wellness and fitness, I study a lot on what happens with people in terms of behavior change when it comes to really anything, but particularly weight loss and fitness. And so last year was the first year in the US history that our obesity rate went down thanks to medical weight loss, which is amazing. But what we found is that a lot of the time after people complete a medical weight loss protocol, they gain the weight back. And so we do things differently for that reason. To kind of what you were saying, Marcus, about how do we build that confidence? We want to build their confidence in making the right choices. So we tell them, once you lose the weight, we don't want you to find it again, right? And so we actually do custom nutrition and fitness plans that I build for every patient. I don't charge for it. I just like doing it.
Oh,
So
wow.
we throw that in because I want these people to see that, medical weight loss is amazing, but there has to be behavior change. And when we do that, we build that confidence because they can trust themselves to make good choices again. And the cool thing about medical weight loss is it's actually a behavior change thing. So we're helping them to rewire their neural pathways for reward. So listen, I love a good donut like everybody else, right? But the reward that I get, the pause that I can give my brain to go, yeah, I'm going to feel like crap in an hour, right? And I'm going to want to brush my teeth, and this is going to show up in how tight my pants are. That is what we're creating space for with medical weight loss and having that fitness and nutrition plan.
That's awesome. How brilliant is that? Yeah, that spurs a lot of different questions for me, especially like when you're talking about like rewiring someone's brain, because I mean, my girlfriend and I go through this all the time. She comes from like, she has a sweet tooth. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I have a salt tooth. I love my chips. So for me, like for my whole life, I have to not have them in my house, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
I'll be on a phone call with a client and then boom, I'm opening a bag of chips and I'm like, oh, what the heck am I doing?
I didn't even know I was doing it, right?
Right. So it's like a nervous habit for me. And it's like, it's just something I reach for when I just have a little bit of anxiety or whatever it might be.
Sure. Yeah.
For her, it's the same, but she's been teaching herself how to, like you said, like take that pause.
Yes.
Because it's so important. It's like, okay, like I want, and hers is bad. Like, and we've talked about on the show before. It's like order a cookie at like 9:30 at night when we're in bed. I'm like, why is there something at the door? There's a cookie being delivered or whatever. So she has learned how to, help with those different types of like what's it called? Like an urge to necessarily to eat that specifically. I never thought that'd be part of what you guys offer.
Yeah.
So that has to be a little bit more personalized service that you guys offer as opposed to other med spas around town, right?
From my understanding, yeah. I mean, from everyone with whom I've spoken, they have told me, oh, nobody does that, right? And I don't know what no one means. I don't know how many people they've talked to, but I do know it is unique. My nurse practitioner she just moved from Texas, and she's been in the industry a long time, about a decade. And she's said to me, no one does that. So, and she's military wife, so she's been in many different markets. I think it is pretty unique and it is very much customized. So my patients are left with homework where I say, okay, you tell me what foods you like, what foods don't you like? What's your activity level? Are you on base? What fitness equipment do you have available to you? And we really prioritize strength training, which can make people uncomfortable. People say, well, can I just do cardio? And I'm like, no, you can't, right? Because we really want to maintain a good amount of muscle mass. And that's so critical to your longevity, to the strength of your bones, to your cognition, to your overall wellness. We know that the presence of muscle mass actually mitigates the instances of illness in people. And it also helps with insulin resistance.
Gosh, yeah. Talk about some of the new studies. Cause I feel like, especially like the past 5, and then they're always coming up with new studies, but like, I feel like the past 5 years, they've really come out with some things that's like really, really interesting about so many different types of things. Like you're talking about having more muscle mass and what that can mean more than just like burning calories faster. There's so much more. Is there anything else that kind of rings a bell with you? You're like, oh my gosh, if I would have known this growing up or whatever, like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Talk about those.
Yeah. So muscle mass is so critical, and it's often forgotten by women. It is becoming more and more prevalent. And I think thanks in large part to movements like the CrossFit movement and things of that nature. But ultimately the presence of muscle is so critical to our body's ability, to minimize illness, of course, but also thinking about without having that muscle mass, the danger to us in terms of having a high level of visceral fat, which is the fat we carry right here, right? That is where your organs live, right? So it is a danger to your organs. You've probably heard this, but they say now that sitting is as dangerous as smoking, right? So having muscle mass, not only, as you said, and as we talked about, helps with just burning calories, but having that muscle mass will help with hormonal balance. So a higher density of muscle is going to help us with having a better level of testosterone, which, as we know, is critical and has incredible benefits from a cardiovascular perspective. It's going to help us also to metabolize foods in the right way. So, we do need a good amount of carbohydrates. I am not a low carb girl. Give me all of the carbs, right? But I want to do it in the right way to really feed those muscles and give them the glycogen stores that they need to grow. And so in doing that, we create not only a stronger body, but stronger bones and a stronger mind. So there is a higher level of cognition tied now based on the research to a higher level of muscle mass, as well as just overall longevity. So the key is, and I don't know if you've seen it, but Blue Zones on Netflix, it's so good. He talks about the reason that so many of these people in these different areas are living for so long is because they never stop moving. And so having muscle, having the physical capacity to move for the duration of your life is the key to longevity and living well.
We're going to take a quick break to thank our sponsors. Reveal Med Spa. Look and feel your best at Reveal Med Spas. With personalized plans that deliver real results, radiant skin, restored confidence, and natural rejuvenation.
At Reveal Med Spa, we see you. More than just aesthetic and wellness treatments, we provide a safe, judgment-free space where you feel valued, heard, and supported.
Visit revealmedspas.com.
I think it is literally just that too. We'll just double check. Book your next session at revealmedspas.com. That's revealmedspas.com.
Home Day. Buying a home shouldn't be overwhelming. Home Day empowers you to save on your mortgage by putting you in control of the process. Lower your cost and take the next step towards home ownership with ease. Visit gethomeday.com today.
Fast Signs. From banners to vehicle wraps, Fast Signs delivers custom visual solutions to help your business stand out. Their team ensures your message is clear, bold, and effective. Get your signage needed handled at fastsigns.com. That's fastsigns.com. Epic Eyewear. Stylish, affordable, and designed for adventure, Epic Eyewear has the sunglass and eyewear you need to see life more clearly. From the mountains to the beach, protect your eyes with high-quality frames and lenses. Check out their collection at epiceyewear.com. And by the way, Andrew, we do have a special discount, COSBP15 for 15% off, I believe.
Cars Helping Charities. Turn your unused cars into a meaningful contribution with Cars Helping Charities. They make it easy to donate your vehicle to support local causes. One of the local charities that we like to support on behalf of Cars Helping Charities, actually, and part of their sponsorship is Mattersville. And check them out too.
They're awesome. They are a tiny house community for veterans suffering with PTSD. They have a property out in Yoder, Colorado, and then they also have one in Sedalia, Colorado as well.
Donate today and make a difference. Visit carshelpingcharities.org. That's carshelpingcharities.org.
Dream Accounting Solutions.
Take the stress out of managing your books with Dream Accounting Solutions. They provide reliable expert accounting services tailored to small businesses. Simplify your finances at dreamaccountingsolutions.com. That's dreamaccountingsolutions.com.
Exponential Impact. Exponential Impact is driving innovation and entrepreneurial success in Colorado Springs. Supporting startups with mentorship, funding, and community resources, they help businesses grow and thrive. Learn more about their impact at exponentialimpact.com. That's exponentialimpact.com.
And now let's get back to the show.
I know Andrew was talking to me like a couple months ago about bone density too, like especially with women, because women, their bones become a little bit more brittle earlier on, just because they're thinner already to begin with. They're less dense than men's. And like my mom had osteopenia like in her mid 40s. Yeah. And she was incredible. I mean, she's in her 60s now, incredible shape, but like she didn't know. Like, hey, you also got to lift weights. You can't run that off. You actually have to lift weights to build the muscle, to build the bone densities, so on and so forth. Yeah. And like, you're right. Like, I love that documentary. It's just so cool to see. And one thing I did get recently, I'm not sure if you heard of it. It's called a slant board. It's like a board you can like do squats on. It's like a little slant board. Oh yeah. And it helps the ligaments and muscles around your knee, because they say like as you age, those are like the ligaments that go the quickest. And so like mobility, obviously like standing up off a chair. Sure. Like in America, we have lazy boys, right? We don't have to really get up too much to kind of
the chair gets up for you. You can buy one of those, right?
In the blue zones, they don't even have chairs in some of those places. They're sitting on the ground. So imagine their range of motion with their knees all the time, just by sitting on the ground or on a mat or whatever, in comparison to us. Right. We're already kind of half up on a chair. So
it's a good point.
It's very interesting. Yeah. And like, I think Colorado Springs is also a great spot for med spa, first and foremost, especially where you guys are based, which is off Interquest, correct? That's
right. Yep. We're just behind Shields and Great Wolf Lodge, kind of tucked back there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Talk about going into business with your husband and like opening this up and like the challenges that you guys first face. And doing something like that, opening up a storefront in a high traffic area that's growing rapidly. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, and everything you just said is absolutely appealing, and is why we chose that location. We live in Monument, and so it's great proximity for us, but we also know that it's one of the fastest growing areas in Colorado Springs and one of the highest earning demographics. So we keep that in mind and bear in mind what our target audience is and who do we want to bring in. Location is critical. And so we found this location. It was ideal. And, you know, we don't have yard or road signage. So that was a little bit challenging, but we were able to get just an incredible setup with our contractor and with our landlord, who essentially helped us to build it out. So that was a huge benefit to us. And it's a beautiful space and we're really proud of it. The process itself, from my husband ran a $20 million TV station and he's had 60 employees. And so he knows how to run a large business. And I've run multi-million dollar sales organizations. And we had to send our cabinets back 3 times, right? And so there were so many things that came up in that process that can really slow things down, and so many logistics and so many details. And there were things that I don't know for which I could have been prepared, right? So it's, I have to have these certain type of non-woven gauze versus woven gauze. And I need to have these size needles because they like these needles better because they inject better. And so there's so many logistics that the first few months, you just feel like you're drinking from the fire hose and just, you're a duck on water or trying to be, and you're just paddling like crazy underneath.
Yeah.
So that process was, it was a growth season. I will say that. It was challenging. I was still working and my husband was putting everything together and getting that all done. And then, because he had moved from Montana, so he took this on full time. Meanwhile, I'm still a corporate consultant. So he's doing that. I'm helping on nights, weekends, before work. And then I'm on Zooms all day, or I'm on a plane and I'm waking up in a hotel room and I'm in Bakersfield, California, or I'm in Fort Worth, Texas, or, I'm in Idaho. And so we're trying to do those things at the same time. It was uniquely challenging and we still have kids and we're still trying to, be a married couple. So we learned a lot and we're still learning all the time.
What can you pull from that from an entrepreneur who's married, who has kids, and is like, okay, that's already full time.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine doing a business on top of that. Like, what can you say to that person who's kind of on the fence of like, should I do this? Should I not?
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about this, about taking the leap, but
Yeah.
it looks really scary on that side.
Yeah, I would say prepare your heart. There's a lot of opportunity. It's a beautiful thing to be able to build what you want, and to be able to create the brand and ultimately have something that you're incredibly proud of. It is your baby. And if you have other babies, to whom you've given birth, like I do, prepare your heart because it will take time from those kiddos. And you really have to kind of mind your mind and understand that there's going to be guilt involved, that you're going, oh my goodness, the kids are saying, Mom, you're on the computer again, or Mom, before I came here today, I was on the phone with a patient while trying to make my daughter a smoothie because she had just had, 2 fillings done. And so the juggle is real. And I would say you have to really ask yourself, am I ready for that? Am I ready to give up some of that time? Because you will.
How old are your kiddos?
So my oldest is 15, my stepdaughter's 13, and my son is 11. So they're all 2 years apart. Yeah. So we're in taxi season where we just take them to activities. That's our life. Yeah.
Are they in sports and a lot of activities?
Yeah. Then? Yeah. All of them are in something. So my 15-year-old is on the Pom Squad at Lewis Palmer. My 13-year-old is in theater in Littleton, and then my 11-year-old is in jujitsu. So we're sitting on bleachers a good amount of the time if we're not working in the office. Yeah. Or at home.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. And then like when you start this whole thing, obviously there's probably certs that you need to get in order
Yeah.
to even talk a little bit about that too, because we had Desiree
Yeah.
Marhofer on a couple weeks ago. I want to
Right.
connect you to, by the way. If you haven't
Yeah.
already, you probably might have already connected, but talk about that as well, because that's super interesting.
Yeah, just the business structure that's required for a med spa is pretty it's pretty ironclad in the state of Colorado, which is a good thing, right? That protects the patient. But you do need to have a medical provider who is a partner in your business. So we have an MD who is my husband's best friend of 25 years,
Cool.
and he is a partner. He's a silent partner. He's just a partner with us so that we could really get this thing open and make sure that we were running very clean. He has a background in emergency medicine, and I believe was a part owner in maybe the Cleveland Clinic. So really just an incredible guy. Then on top of that, so he's one medical director. And then we had to get an on-site medical director because he is not in the state. And we have to make sure that we have someone on-site who is available at all times for any medical emergencies, but also to guide anything that requires prescriptive authority. So we also have a nurse practitioner who is our on-site medical director, and she's fantastic. And then we have an RN and a patient success manager. So logistically, we had to make sure that we could check those boxes to answer your question from a certification standpoint and make sure that we are extremely ironclad on the medical side with the right provider. So it wasn't just do they meet these criteria and have these licenses? They have DEA licenses, they have medical licenses, but also what kind of providers are they? You know, you can get a nurse practitioner, but can she do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy? Can she guide someone through medical weight loss? And can she also inject someone and give them a really nice set of lips? That's very hard to find. So it's unique in that it requires a very high level of skill set to go alongside those certifications.
Yeah, that segues into perfectly what I was going to talk about, because I was like, I look at this and you guys fairly new business.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of services that you offer.
We do.
And, I mean, and then it sounds like you have the staff to provide it, because you were just mentioning them. But I was thinking and looking facials, microneedling, laser treatment, injectables, like you were just talking about, hair restoration, peptide therapy, sexual wellness. I mean, there's so much in here. IV therapy, hormone therapy.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, and I get really excited about most of them. You know, you don't have the amount of time for me to sit here and talk to you about how much I love peptides. You know, I mean, you're a fitness guy, and so you probably are familiar, right? But we do NAD, which is like the most amazing gold standard thing that you can get now, right? And it's hard to find a good practitioner who understands it. It's a coenzyme helper molecule that really does help to repair you at the DNA level. It's called nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, I believe. So it's very polysyllabic, but all that means in English is that this thing is something that really does change your body. It's something we have in our bodies already from birth. And if we don't have it, we die. But it falls off a cliff at 40, 50, and as we age. And so things like NAD or BPC 157, which is body protection compound, right? These injectables really do change people's health. Body protection compound is really great. Talking about your joints earlier, that's an injectable that people take as a peptide, and they will either take it subcutaneously in their belly, or they'll shoot it right into a joint for joint pain to repair it. And so there are a lot of things that we do on the peptide side that are really kind of niche-y. HRT, or hormone replacement therapy, as you mentioned, is probably my favorite thing that we do. And that's because specifically in women, women are not well prepared for the fact that before menopause, there's this whole other thing called perimenopause that can last for up to 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Before you start menopause. So you guys probably know, right? Like when you think of menopause, what do you think of?
Hot flashes.
Hot flashes, right? And
Moodiness or
she's
something.
cranky, right? Okay. Before that is perimenopause. And it mimics menopause. You're just not fully menopausal. And so women experience low libido. They have interrupted sleep. They have hair loss, unexpected weight gain. They're moody. You're blinking way too loud for her, right? You're driving her nuts. She's having hot flashes. She's like, I don't understand why I feel like this. And it's probably because her testosterone is completely in the tank. And she feels terrible because her body is not helping her. And so we have these incredible things through bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. It's made from plants, soy and yams, that go in and will fix those abnormal levels to help women find themselves again. And so, yes, of course, we do Botox and we do lasers and we do hair restoration using people's plasma. But things like hormone replacement therapy and the response that we receive from the people who get it are completely life-changing and so fulfilling.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know you've mentioned some of the, and so who do you necessarily like, because obviously someone like you who's a student of this, you're obviously a business owner, but you're obviously a student of this as well.
Right,
And you're at the cutting edge of some of these new findings that we're talking about, which is awesome. Who do you specifically follow? Because it sounds like you have some folks that you follow that might be out there in the public eye who are really championing these new ideas that are just amazing.
Yeah. So there's a few. I mean, if you're podcasters, so I'm a big Huberman fan. If you listen to the Huberman Lab, love him. And he really got me going on peptides and really understanding how they work. I love Dr. William Seeds. In fact, over the weekend, I just attended a virtual conference he had in Vegas, all about peptides and what it can do to change people's lives. So I love him. Jason Pensick's another one, and he's a really good one. So there are many influencers. That's just to name a few that are out there and really talking about the benefits of peptides. And I just, I mean, like I said, some people fish. I like to listen to podcasts about peptides.
That's awesome. There's definitely there's so many people out there, like you said, so many influencers are talking about that. is it Brandon Johnson, the guy who wants to live forever? Is that the guy?
Brian Johnson.
Oh,
Brian
I did
Johnson.
watch that documentary.
So
yeah.
he's a very interesting one. And
Yeah.
there's some things where I'm like, I don't know about all that, but like, what are your thoughts? At least if you've heard of him or initially know of what he's doing, he's
Yeah.
obviously trying not to
die. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think I respect what he's doing, and I, he's in a position financially where he can try all of those things. And, at first, when I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, what's this guy all about? And I'm all about biohacking. I mean, I love it. It's my favorite thing. I will buy discount clothes all day long, but peptides, I will spend my money on peptides. That's my thing. But what I got into it, even though I was hesitant, once I watched it, I really started to understand that this man was just searching for fulfillment, and this became the way for him to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of merit in some of the things that he is doing. Not to speak, from a medical perspective, saying he's right or wrong, but there's, he's doing red light therapy. He's doing so many different peptides, and he's really looking at how he can maximize his own performance. And I think what's cool about that is let him spend millions of dollars if he has it, and then we can learn and reap the benefits. And so there's some real value in that, I think.
Can you talk more about the peptides and exactly what they do and why people should be using them?
Oh, man. Yeah, I can definitely do that. So peptides are so interesting because, there are many peptides that exist in our bodies, right? And so we think about medical weight loss for just a minute. That is a peptide. So GLP-1s, you guys have probably heard of that acronym.
Ozempic?
Yeah, Ozempic, right? You hear about tirzepatide or semaglutide, right? And there are others as well. But GLP-1's glucagon-like peptide. That's what the P stands for. And it already exists in your body, and it wakes up after you've eaten. But the thing is that peptide's only awake for about 90 seconds. And a glucagon-like peptide, when injected, your body sees it as itself. And that the effects of that peptide last for 4 to 5 days.
Wow.
So when you think about why is it that people are losing weight? Why is it they're not hungry? It's because that they have found a way to mimic the efficacy of what that peptide can do and then really expand upon it. So things like that, and just kind of going into that space a little bit more, Andrew, GLP-1s are so incredible because they don't just help people lose weight. They help reduce inflammation. You guys probably know this. They help improve people with addiction. So there are tests being done with GLP-1s on people who have alcohol addiction, pornography addiction, gambling addictions, because it really does create that mental space to sort of rewire those dopaminergic responses in your brain, right? And so I'm such a believer in GLP-1s and GIPs. I also love, and it's not out yet, but fascinated with a GLP-3 called retatrutide. Really, really cool. These things go after and target visceral fat, and can really help. I have patients who have told me, I take a GLP just because I have a torn shoulder and I don't feel pain when I'm on it. I have another one who has stage 4 endometriosis, and she takes a GLP-1 so that she doesn't bear that excruciating pain. My father has a terminal illness called pulmonary fibrosis, where fibrous tissue builds up in his lungs. Ultimately, it will suffocate you. It will take you. And these GLP-1s, GIPs, even GLP-1 receptors can help to minimize some of the development of that fibrous tissue based on what we're seeing in preliminary findings. So that in and of itself, Andrew, is a whole just mecca of like magic in the peptide world. But things like NAD, or say a BPC 157, there's a peptide called Selenk. And I love it because it helps people who have depressive tendencies. It's injected subcutaneously, and it helps the brain to find sort of that mood support without having all the negative side effects that an SSRI or an antidepressant will give them. And so peptides are really the key to our longevity. And it's not just a pill. It's not just something you take and then you have a ton of side effects. It's something that really finds its way throughout your body and helps your body to get back to work, because that's really what's happening. It's the degradation of our body's own ability to perform. Those peptides really support it. So if you're interested in peptides, if you're exploring it, is this for me? I'm telling you, keep diving in. And if you're bored, come see me, because we can have a whole geek out session on peptides. Yeah.
I'm just curious, kind of like, what exactly are they? Because, in your body, you have, red blood cells. You have all these different little things.
Like, what are they?
Yeah. Where do they fit in the puzzle?
Yeah. So, I mean, for lack of a better term, they are quite literally a peptide. So there's not really another definition for it, right? When I think about NAD is a coenzyme helper. And so what that does is it helps us to metabolize and process things. So ATP, that's the cellular metabolization of what it is that it takes in. So peptides are things that are just kind of already there, for lack of a better term. There's not a synonym for them. Like you said, like platelets or red blood cells or white blood cells, there are peptides there as well. And so with GLPs, for example, it's a part of that sort of biochemistry of the gut that exists. And that's kind of how we define it loosely.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I love all this stuff too. I nerd out on a lot of this stuff. And always trying to enlighten myself and learn more about this stuff, because I haven't really went down the peptide rabbit hole yet. I've gone down a lot of the different rabbit holes, a lot of the stuff Brian Johnson's done, a lot of the stuff Gary Brecker talks about, just trying to always optimize my health. I know I have habits that counter that.
Sure.
But I'm always trying to optimize my health. I think Palmer Park is me going to Palmer Park every day for like 45 minutes pretty much for the last 5 years has given me a good like estimated VO2 max. I haven't actually got it tested,
I love it.
But like just doing that and like focusing on like the different zones, like the heart rate zones.
That's
and, like,
right. Yeah.
Trying to get a certain amount of that in has actually driven up my VO2 max. Like just making sure that I'm getting 90 minutes.
Are you going for zone 2? Is that kind of
zone 2 in like 30 minutes of zone 4 and 5? Yeah.
Wow. That's fantastic.
And doing that is actually, I've seen the numbers go up, and it's through Whoop. So it's like estimated VO2 max. You can't really get an accurate VO2 max unless you get it measured.
Get
through
the face thing. Yeah.
But I mean, they're within a few, within like a few numbers, of accuracy.
That's awesome.
It's just, I love that you're all about all this stuff because I love it too.
It's fun, right? Yeah, it's super interesting. Yeah, I love it.
I'm curious too of like, now that you guys have been in business for some time, like talk about some of those. I mean, as best as you can, obviously we're talking HIPAA compliance, but like a specific client of yours who's kind of, you've seen them at one stage walk through the door, a little hesitant, don't really know about these different things. And you have to dispel all these myths and all these different types of habits you got to deprogram with them. But seeing them already on the other side of that, and you're like, oh my gosh, like look at them day 1 versus day, whatever it is, 2 years down the line or whatever.
Right.
Talk about that. I'm sure there's been some great success stories.
Yeah, we have, both on the aesthetic side and on the wellness side. So, on the aesthetic side, the first person that comes to mind was a smoker for 40 years. And just such a near and dear to my heart human that everybody in our med spa has fallen in love with. And we have a tendency to do that. It's kind of a problem. We just fall in love with these people and know their stories and know everything, that they end up crying in our consult room and they're like, I don't know why I'm crying. I mean, we really get connected to these people. This patient in particular, had kind of given up on herself and had said, well, I'm older and I've smoked for a long time and I've tried all these other things. And I had a doctor who had to go in and take out a tumor or a benign spot. And when they did that, they cut my muscle and I've got this kind of divot in my face, right? And so this patient was really experiencing just a lot of challenges, and 40 years of smoking will do a number on your skin. And so we said, well, we've got a plan and a protocol. Let's try it. And this patient now is such a believer. And anytime this patient is in the med spa, she will walk up to whomever is there and tell them how happy she is with what we have done, because we did radiofrequency microneedling. Her skin had really aged. She had seen some laxity and there's some glycation in her collagen. So her collagen was just kind of like old and bristly, for lack of a better term. And we used microneedling to improve her collagenesis. And that does it by upwards of 400%. So we wanted her collagen to get back to work, right? And it hadn't done that in some time. She's in her 60s. And so when we did that, all of a sudden we started to see these changes. And every time we see this patient, we'd be like, oh my gosh, did you see her? This is amazing. And she will tell anyone that will listen just what a change it's been for her. And she's tried things for so long. So for me, it was just an incredibly rewarding thing. Coming into med spas and so intimidating, right? And to walk in, especially as a woman in your 60s, you're not some 25-year-old Barbie doll getting your lips done. It's like you still have the ability to be who you want to be at this stage in your life. And we got there. So that's incredibly rewarding for sure. I think on the wellness side, just medical weight loss in general, I'm seeing women get stronger, and they say, oh, well, I just usually work my legs or I just do cardio. And I'm telling them, these are the movements that I want you to do in the gym. This is the form I want to see. And they're texting me and saying, I'm so sore and it's awesome. And I picked up more weight than I ever have. And it's just it's so cool to help these women find themselves.
What about like collagen supplements?
Yeah.
So Brian Johnson, he specifically takes 20 milligrams a day
Yeah.
of collagen supplements.
Yeah.
Like, there's like different types of them too, like type 2 or 3,
Type 1
4.
and 3. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
and those peptides?
No, so they're not. And typically collagen supplements are bovine. So they're from cows. And the challenge with that is they can be great. They're great for hair, skin, and nails. They're not a complete protein. So you can't be like, oh, this is my protein coffee. Not really, because it's not a complete protein. But they're great for those things. However, what happens with bovine collagen or anything that's ingested is the gut will not know that you want it to go to your face. It's not like, oh, hey, she's taking this collagen from Costco because she really wants to get rid of those wrinkles, right? So your body is going to absorb a lot of that. It doesn't exactly know where to put it all the time. It's not a bad thing. I tell everybody that takes it, I'm like, great. It's not going to stave off wrinkles, but it is a good thing to take. Collagen 1 and 3 are super interesting because collagen 1 is what we're always trying to regenerate. And you've probably heard of people saying like, I want to create collagenesis or biostimulation. Collagen 3 is youthful collagen. So it doesn't exist in our adulthood. It's really when we're young and we have those cute, squishy cheeks. But it is a playground for collagenesis of collagen 1, meaning the growth of collagen 1. So I'm actually more a proponent of how do we get your body to do it itself? Instead of just taking a supplement, why don't we just tell your body to like get back to work, right? But about 35, that's when our collagenesis essentially decides it's not going to do that anymore. It's not interested in participating. And so we do things like microneedling, for example. And what that does is allows, if you're taking a collagen supplement, fantastic, but how can we really evolve that and improve that collagenesis? And so we do that. We use something called Radius, which is a biostimulator. So it's injected, and what it does is it awakens both collagen 1, collagen 3, and elastin. So you look like you. You don't look overstuffed, right? There's no duck face happening, right? It's you. It's just your body getting back to doing what it was doing in, say, your 20s.
I forgot about the duck face. That was like something that people did in my 20s,
right?
my early 20s.
Oh, the duck face. Yeah, we don't do that. This is Colorado, you know?
Well, talk about when we're doing our research on you, there's a community aspect to what you guys are doing here at Reveal. And I think it's a really beautiful take on helping out the community. But talk about how your business specifically gives back to the community, the greater community of Colorado Springs.
Yeah, that was an important thing. When my husband and I started exploring this, I said to him, you know, I know the demographic for this kind of business, and it's typically, in large part, it's, you know, higher income earning females, right? Which is great. And we want to take care of those women. But I want to take care of all women. And, you know, I was raised in poverty. I was pretty poor growing up, and my parents made their own way, and it's an incredible gift to me. And so now what I want to be able to do is to give back to women that I don't get to see in the med spa, who need us more than we'll ever know. And so organizations like Tessa, and there's some human trafficking organizations that we're going to get partnered with, are really important to us because, you know, I'm such a believer that what you put out, you get back anyway. But this is more than that. I want every person to feel seen and loved and supported. And when organizations like Tessa, where these are victims of domestic violence, people who don't believe that they're enough and don't believe that they're worthy and don't know if they're going to survive, those are the people that really need our help. And so a portion of what we do goes back to those organizations. And it was critical. And I told my husband, I said, this is something that we just have to do. And he said, absolutely. So it's a key part of what we're trying to build here. We want to create community within our four walls, but we want to expand that out beyond them as well.
Have you guys had a moment where you're able to like give that big check over to like Tessa or something like that?
Yeah, not yet. We are excited though. We're going to partner with them on the plan. Hopefully is to be a partner at Pasta in the Park. And then we just did a Mother's Day event, which was a really beautiful experience. And part of all of those sales went to it. And so at the end of the year, we get to do that, which is exciting. And that's very much a part of our plan. So we're really looking forward. And I've worked a little bit with Tessa already, and they kind of know our intention so that we can be partners together, so that we can really make sure that those dollars that are coming in are used well and supporting them.
When you were raised in somewhat poverty to where you're at today, talk about reflecting on that, like growing up and what you were, your parents doing the best they can, bringing you guys kind of out of that, sounds like, and then like where you're at today. Talk about that cycle of your life and what it means to you personally.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time, poverty was the best gift I could have received because it taught me to be grateful and it taught me to work hard. You know, my parents worked incredibly hard and they're just about to retire. My mother's just retired. My father is, we'll see, hopefully he'll retire. They've had that business for 25 years. And I remember my dad wearing 2 pairs of socks. And he would wear 2 pairs of socks in Southwest Missouri in 100-degree days in his cowboy boots because the holes didn't match up. And so he could get enough coverage on the feet, on his feet. So one hole was here and one hole was here. And that way they would cover his whole foot.
Oh my gosh.
So that said, now my parents have done very well for themselves, but it hasn't been without their own share of stresses and just incredible amount of weight that they've taken on from running a business. But it was absolutely the greatest gift for me watching my parents work hard and go get what they wanted. I've never been of the belief that we're entitled to anything. You know, rent's due, right? You got to go after it if you want it. My mom always said the squeaky wheel gets greased. And so, you know, I started in my career on commission sales, right? And so the only way I was going to make money is if I went out and got it myself. So I've never expected anyone to just pay me to be here. I have to earn it. And I'm so grateful for that perspective because I think that is the bulk of the reason why that I'm here.
Oh, I mean, so true. And like, speaking of like entrepreneurship and like you coming up in sales, like I would say that's one of the greatest hallmarks of a true entrepreneur is like learning that first part of being a salesperson.
Yeah.
And like learning people because that's what it is, right?
Totally.
Talk about that because like so many people out there are afraid of that or like putting themselves out there or putting their name behind something and selling it. They're getting started in business and they're like, okay, like, you know, I'm a little afraid like something might happen in my business. They have that hesitancy to one, sell and 2, like have prices that might be a little bit higher.
Totally.
Talk about like working that out in your head and doing sales as well.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's interesting because working in advertising for as long as I did, I would have new reps and they'd say, well, I don't want to ask them for that much money. I don't want to. And I'd say, no, please understand. This is not about asking them for that much money. This is about understanding what their goals are and what's the path to help them get there. Right. If you're a medical provider and let's say you're a cardiothoracic surgeon and somebody's got a full blockage, you're going to tell them what they need to do to not die, right? And so we had this moral and ethical obligation, in my opinion, that as salespeople, our job was to give them a path to their goals. I wasn't selling shoes, not that there's anything wrong with that. I was selling the outcome, which was this advertising or marketing strategy is going to help get you to where you want to go much more quickly. Now, when I switched to the med spa space, that was a transition for me because I take a lot of pride in helping people feel seen. And that's our slogan, right? Is be seen. And so when I have people coming in and sitting across the desk from me for the first time and they're telling me everything that they don't like about themselves, my innate nature is to say, oh, no, listen, here's all the beautiful things that I see. And so it was a little bit of a push-pull, even though I'm a salesperson by heart, to go, well, how do I give them what they want by, you know, talking about all their vulnerabilities? Mm-hmm. And it took time, but what I got to was these people are coming to us for guidance. They want that help. I struggled with acne my entire life until about 9 months ago, every day. And so I tell people, I lead with that. I lead with my vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And once I got to that shift and I could say, okay, these people are just looking for someone to help them find what it is that's going to make them feel like they're the best version of themselves again. Then it was a different conversation. And so I think for business owners, you have to remember people aren't buying. If you're, this is one I use always the time, you're not selling them a mattress, right? You're selling a better night's sleep. That's what they're getting. They don't want a mattress from you. They want to not wake up all night. And if you can understand as a business owner, what is the outcome that they want? What is the reward that they're trying to create? And you build a path to that, you're not selling anything. You're just creating an opportunity for them to get there, you know?
Yeah, I think it's so important, especially when you're talking about like bridging the gap of like opening up about your own vulnerabilities. Was that a challenge for you in the beginning to kind of talk about that? Because obviously like something like adult acne is like very visible. You know?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a insecurity that you can hide, that whatever it might be, like acne's on your face, it's shown to the world. So like talk about like going through the vulnerabilities and sharing that,
Yeah.
you know, as, you know, part of this business model for yourself?
You know, it's funny. You would think it would be hard for me. I think I'm just so open that I don't have a problem. You know, I'll show every single one of them. I have hypopigmentation. It's right here. You can see it. And I didn't have a problem doing that. But I think the reason I didn't is because I want people to understand that I am them. You know, I mean, yes. Am I one of the owners of this med spa? Yes. And do I have access to a lot of incredible things? Yeah. And it's awesome. Right. But I'm still a girl who thought before we opened this, how am I going to do this if I have acne on my face every day? And then I got on the right skincare routine and I figured it out and I started to understand the molecular structure of clinical grade skincare. And then I was like, I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. So it became something that once they could hear that vulnerability from me, they feel safer. And they're like, oh, okay. So you're not just some skinny blonde who owns a med spa and everything's easy for you. No, it's not. I'm still working on my skin now.
Mm-hmm.
And so when, prior to opening, I was a public speaker, right? So I would go out and speak to hundreds of people and hope to God that my zits weren't showing, that my cover up didn't wear off.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if we can kind of just extend that olive branch of saying, look, we're all imperfect and we're all trying to achieve something, I feel like it creates a sense of community in that space. And it really helps people to go, okay, these are my people. We're safe here.
Would you describe yourself as more of an A-type type of personality?
Yeah. Yeah.
How has that been as a woman, in business? 'Cause
Uh-huh.
I know from my mother's perspective, very A-type as well.
Yeah.
And I know some of the, experiences that she had.
Mm.
But there is some trials and tribulations being a woman with an A-type personality.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. I you know what? I feel so seen right now, Marcus. So being a type A is tough. And we were just talking about this actually today in a team meeting, talking about strong women. As a female in particular, right? You do have to, and your mom probably had to do this too. You have to monitor that, right? You have to buffer it because it can come off as assertive or aggressive or intense, right? Or I go very fast. I have a very fast pace. And so when I'm in a consult with a patient, I have to put that aside. And everything else needs to go away. And my pace changes. My tone changes, my pace, my volume, my body language will change because I want them like all that's not their problem. Yes, my type A is going to show up in every area of business. And that's not always a good thing, right? That can present challenges because when you're a type A, you make it harder for other people to do their own jobs. So I have to pull that back and just allow that time in those consultations to slow down, hear these people. And then my type A can wake up in an hour,
That's a great way to put it. Is it harder, like dynamics with different folks? Like my mom always got along with men a lot more than say women because like a type A personality with other women can cause different issues, right? Being that direct and that blunt and that quick and like there was a lot of issues that she's, obviously she's overcome those, but like they're presented naturally because of your personality.
Mm-hmm.
Now owning a med spa, I would assume there's a lot of females, probably majority females. Clientele, you already told
90%,
us, but for your workforce too. So talk about being a leader in that space too, as well.
Yeah. So, in the past, and I would agree, I'm just like your mom. I say dude a lot. I do better with men. You know what I mean? It's just, I can be myself and I can be strong and powerful and men don't say, what's wrong with her? Right? I can just show up to that conversation and be me. And with women in the past, specifically when I worked on all female teams prior to this one, it can be tricky with a peer-to-peer. From a leadership perspective, because I'm a mom, I tend to turn on that maternal instinct and I tend to really try to hear them and care about them. But then I will do that to a degree where I wear myself out, right? Because I really want them to feel heard and seen and all that. So I have to manage some of that. And my NP is an incredibly strong female, just brilliant human. And so I have to let her do her job. She has prescriptive authority and I have to control what is controllable and what needs controlling and what needs support by me and free her up to do that. And that I had to learn that, because I want to make sure I'm providing value. I want to make sure that I show up here ready to be no place else and that everybody says like she is doing the best possible job. And I trip, I mess up, So it's always a work in progress. My stepdaughter at dinner the other night told me her best friend came over and the first time I met her, I didn't know this, but she said, your stepmom's really intimidating. And I was like, what is it? Right. So I can't really see it. I just, I just communicate in such a way that I do have to monitor it, because I love people so much. And I fall in love with every patient and every new friend that I make. And so it's a weird dichotomy, because I am very much intense and I'm very much like a kind of type A female, but I also just, I just want to be your best friend.
That's a great way to answer that for sure. When this was coming up when you were answering your last question, but like when you have questions that you don't know the answers to, and you're finding yourself like with all these different problems, who do you call on specifically? You obviously have parents who were entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You have a great husband behind the camera over there.
Yes, I do.
Who are some of those people that are your sounding boards for you?
I have a few. I have an MD here who is a mentor of mine, who I just love dearly and has been in the industry a long time, and is retiring and is very good about giving me feedback and letting me know, hey, it's okay, you're doing a great job, or this is what I might do differently. And then my parents are still, they're still incredibly busy, so I don't lean on them as much as you might think. I do lean on some people who have led me in the past. So I had a GM at KOAA who is still a dear friend of mine, and he's in, Arizona, but I'll call him. I have other people who were very high up in the company for which I worked at the time, and I'll call them and ask for guidance. And I lean on my husband a lot because he's led so many people and was a leader throughout his life. He's such a good sounding board for me to voice those concerns. And when my type A is type Aing, right, he's a good sort of level set for me too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What can one expect when they walk inside Reveal Med Spa for the first time ever?
Yes, that's a great question. We love our space. We get a lot of compliments that it's lovely. And so we're very grateful for that, but it's very much an authentic human experience. So it will look very fancy when you walk in, but we are just normal people and we love you already. And that is the thing that I want them to feel. I tell every patient, I meet with every single person that walks through this door, because before I was an owner, I was a patient. And I would walk in these places and I was intimidated and I had acne and everybody was so pretty, and you can't tell how old anybody is, right? At all. It's med spa. You don't know. And so what I want is in that hour for them to feel like I've been waiting all week just to see them, and that this time is their chance to really get all their questions answered and to get a full plan. If you have a way that's going to make you feel confident based on how you look or your fitness or your wellness, we will build that plan for you. That's just what we do. It's customary. We're not going to say, hey, what do you want to do today? We're going to say, how do you want to feel? And let's build a path to get there. And then the goal is that you leave like, these are my people, right? And, if you read our Google reviews, you'll hear that. And we're so grateful. What you read in those Google reviews, and these are like paragraphs long, right? We're so blessed with that. That's what you should expect. What I want for every patient that walks in the store is to go, oh, this is how it's supposed to be at a med spa. I didn't know you could have that. And walk away with like this incredible connection with your new little family.
Oh man, that sounds awesome. And there's also men's services there too, correct?
Yeah, there are. So we do, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy isn't just for women, it's for men as well, right? Men as they age will see a drop off in testosterone. Sorry guys, it's true. And so for most men, that does drop off around age 40 and 50 and 60 respectively. And so we treat men there. We treat men with, we do tox, right? So you guys have heard of Botox. We also do Brotox.
Nice.
Right. So it's okay to still age really well. But you can have those lines treated on your foreheads. We do PRP hair restoration, which is, it's platelet rich plasma. So we actually pull the plasma out of the patient's blood and then inject it into their scalp to help regrow their hair. So we do things like that. We'll do dermal fillers for men. We do, I have a patient who has worked in the sun for 40 years. And he said, I don't know, I just noticed that I look bad. He said, I just have been in the sun my whole life. I just noticed that I look old. And I said, well, you don't look old, but I get it. Sun does a number on you. And so we're doing a full ablative laser treatment on this patient to help him get back some, pull away some of the damage that he's done. So we do weight loss, right? Medical weight loss for men as well. We have a full supplement line that we recommend with protocol specific to weight loss or those hormone therapies, skincare, sunscreen. If you're not wearing sunscreen every day, do it. Okay. I love it. So anything that we do for women, in large part, we do for men. And we do have a good male patient base. Obviously, it's not the bulk, but the cool thing is my husband's one of the others. So you can walk into this pretty med spa and see a dude in there, right? Which I find tends to help that new male patient a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
I have a deeper question to ask you.
Okay.
Why are you doing all this? What does it mean to you?
It's a great question. That's very cerebral. I think when we consider all the work that goes into this business and what it means and the risk that's required, what I go back to is we are capable of so much more than we believe. And that shows up in wellness. That shows up in how we take care of ourselves. I've met women who were abused that are finally trying to take care of themselves and like feel beautiful in their own skin again. And so for me, I think it comes back to my fascination with human performance and wellness, and I just can't turn it off. I love it, and the obsession that I have is how we make people feel. And I need it. I need people to see that they are worthy of love and that they are worthy of feeling good about themselves again. And it just happens to show up in the four walls of a med spa. So I think that's probably the biggest why. That and the stories that people tell us about, I did hormone replacement therapy and it changed my life. I'm sleeping again. I feel like myself. I don't have brain fog anymore. Those kinds of stories are what keep us going through the days where you're going, man, this is a lot of stress. That's the why.
That's awesome. I also think that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, I feel like this phase in your career, you're able to reflect a lot more like full circle about like what you're doing and what impact you're having versus perhaps before when you might have been in the corporate space and you're kind of on that hamster wheel, just like going, doing all these things, flying all these places, talking to all these people. Like there's something to be said, at least in entrepreneurship, that you kind of get a lot more of that full circle moment of like, okay, like let me look around and see what I'm doing and see if this is right for me. I feel like you get more of that opportunity because you're still so you're probably even busier now, but there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about like when you go out on your own and you just put it all out there. Your husband's part of it. Your kids see it. They're part of it. They're going to be affected by it no matter what.
Right. Yeah.
There's something to be said about that. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree. I think you're spot on. And I'm sure you probably feel that way as well. You guys are entrepreneurs and, that is working in corporate for as long as I did. There's a lot of politics, right? You got to check a lot of boxes. And I think for me, I work more than I ever have. No question. And I worked a lot before, but having the impact on people one-to-one, when you work corporate and you're working across the country, it's really hard to have as much of an impact with, have it go as deep with someone, right? It's touches. And here it's like, this is my community. These are our people. I can invest in these people and I can run into them at the grocery store. Not that I can say hi to them because HIPAA, but if they come say hi to me, and they're so happy, I mean, that's incredibly rewarding. And it's such a good reminder for me after a crazy busy day. And, we had to run into the med spa last night at 10 o'clock because somebody's skincare didn't get in the bag and she was flying out at 6 a.m. And so I said, I'm going to get it to you. There are days like that where I'm like, oh my goodness. Right.
Yeah.
But she was so happy. And so I think the impact that we can have on people showing up and hugging someone at 10 p.m. because she can get that in her carry-on. Things like that are incredibly rewarding. And yeah, you're right. It's a lot deeper than the corporate world for sure.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing so much wisdom, because you've garnered a lot, over the years and, that, and also supporting us and what we're doing here. It's so cool to see folks like you enter into this space and see the impact you have get just because of all your experience, and then like you combine that with passion and you can see you're talking, like a doctor to me with Andrew a second ago. I was like, holy cow, man, she knows her stuff. And it's the constant education about it and everything too. But it's just like, you can tell that this type of stuff puts you on fire.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
the show's all about, is like people
Love it.
talking about that and pulling it out of them. It's a beautiful thing, because then we can kind of just sit back and just watch you go. And that's what we're doing there.
That's fun. I
So
love it.
we so appreciate your time, Amber.
Thank you.
That's your camera right there. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so Reveal Med Spas, we're located at 9524 Federal Drive. So we're right behind Shields and Great Wolf Lodge. And if you are looking for a place where you can truly feel safe, feel seen, and feel like you again, I promise you, we are your people.
Well, all right. This has been the COS Business Podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one.